5 players just pulled out of the Washington Open. 5. And Alex Eala hasn't even walked onto the grounds yet. Jasmine Paolini is out. Marta Kostyuk is out. Iva Jovic is out. Katerina Siniakova is out. Jaqueline Cristian is out. 2 of those names were locked in as top 5 seeds. One of them is the very player who knocked Alex Eala out of Wimbledon just weeks ago. On the surface, this looks like the softest draw Eala could have hoped for. Half the danger zone has evaporated overnight, and the bracket suddenly looks a whole lot friendlier than it did last week. But here's the thing about tennis: a wide-open draw is never the same thing as an easy one. Welcome to Tennis Court Cult, the channel that actually digs into what these draws mean instead of just reading you a headline. If this is your first time here, do yourself a favor and hit subscribe, because we're about to explain exactly why these 5 withdrawals might matter a lot less than everyone thinks. Let's start with the injury that kicked this whole thing off. Jasmine Paolini has been dealing with a lingering foot problem for most of the season, and this week she confirmed she's shutting it down not just for Washington, but for Toronto too. She's aiming to be back for Cincinnati in mid-August. It's a real blow for her, especially coming off a strong quarterfinal run at Wimbledon. Once Paolini's name came off the list, everything else started shifting. Marta Kostyuk, the world number 11, withdrew shortly before her, and speculation is that it's simply a scheduling call, an extra week of rest before the brutal Toronto-Cincinnati stretch begins. Iva Jovic, Katerina Siniakova, and Jaqueline Cristian rounded out the exits, and none of them left an empty slot behind. Every single one of those spots has already been filled. Elisabetta Cocciaretto steps in for Kostyuk. Katie Bolter takes Paolini's place. Magdalena Freck replaces Jovic. Magda Linette steps in for Siniakova, and Sarah Bijlek fills the spot vacated by Cristian. That's the part a lot of people miss. The draw hasn't gotten smaller. It's gotten reshuffled. And don't sleep on those replacement names. A player who gets a late call-up into a main draw often shows up with absolutely nothing to lose. No seeding to protect, no ranking pressure hanging over her, just a free swing at a spot she probably wasn't expecting to get a week ago. Some of the most dangerous first-round upsets in this sport come from exactly that type of player, the one nobody scouted, because nobody thought she'd even be in the draw. Now, here's where it gets interesting for Eala specifically. Even with all these exits, she still isn't seeded. She's set to open in the first round like every other unseeded player in the field, meaning there's no cushion, no easy welcome match, no time to find her footing on the hard courts before facing real resistance. Her opener could be a qualifier who's playing with house money, another unseeded competitor hunting for a signature win, or one of the replacements who just got the call to fill a withdrawn spot. None of those are gimmies. And the players still standing in this draw are no joke. Jessica Pegula is the new number 1 seed. Alina Svitolina and Naomi Osaka bring Grand Slam-level firepower. Diana Schneider, Anna Kalinskaya, Madison Keys, defending champion Leylah Fernandez, and Emma Navarro round out the new top 8. This is still very much a stacked field. The exits didn't strip out the danger, they just moved it around. Think of a draw like a chain reaction. Pull one name out, and seeds shift up a slot. Pull out enough names, and first-round buys start changing hands, and suddenly the whole shape of the bracket looks different heading into Monday. That's exactly what happened here. It's chaos, but it's organized chaos, and it cuts both ways. For Eala, that means opportunity and pressure at the same time. She arrives in Washington on the back of the best stretch of her career. At Wimbledon, she did something no other Filipina has ever done. She reached the second week of a Grand Slam, and she did it by dethroning defending champion Iga Swiatek in a gutsy 3-set battle on center court. It was an emotional, career-defining win, the kind that changes how the entire tour looks at a player. 4 days later, her run ended. Jasmine Paolini, the very player who is now withdrawn from Washington, beat her in the 4th round. There's something almost poetic about that. The player who ended Eala's Wimbledon story won't be in Washington to try and do it again. But fans should be careful not to read too much into that. Tennis doesn't hand out favors just because a name disappears from a bracket. Here's the bigger challenge facing Eala now. Everyone knows who she is. At Wimbledon, she walked in with almost nothing to lose. Nobody was studying her patterns because nobody expected her to be a problem. That's not the case anymore. Coaches have now watched the tape. They know about the early ball striking, the left-handed angles that cause so much trouble for right-handers, and the fearlessness she plays with when a match is on the line. The element of surprise is gone. What she has instead is respect, and respect comes with expectations attached. Washington is also a completely different animal from Wimbledon in terms of format. This isn't a 128-player Grand Slam bracket with generous buys for the lower seeds. It's a compact 28-player WTA 500 draw, and only the top 4 seeds get a pass in the second round. Everyone else, Eala included, has to win from day one. There's no easing into the tournament. And then there's the surface change itself, which might be the most demanding part of this whole test. Grass rewards flat, low-bouncing shots and quick, first-strike tennis. Hard courts ask something completely different: patience, physical endurance, and the ability to grind through long rallies in summer heat that doesn't let up. Fortunately, this isn't unfamiliar territory for Eala. Long before Wimbledon turned her into a global story, she'd already built a reputation as a player who mixes smart point construction with aggressive instincts, which is exactly the kind of game that can travel across surfaces. There's also a psychological piece here that's easy to overlook. Confidence isn't a stat you'll find in a box score, but it shapes everything: how a player handles a break point, how she resets after a rough game, how she competes when a match gets tight. Eala walks into Washington having just beaten a Grand Slam champion on the biggest stage in the sport. That kind of belief doesn't guarantee wins, but it's a real asset heading into a tournament where the margins are going to be thin. One more storyline worth watching this week. Eala is teaming back up with Venus Williams in doubles, continuing a partnership that turned heads during the grass court season. Sharing a court with someone who's won as much as Venus has is the kind of experience that's genuinely hard to put a value on. It sharpens net play, tightens reflexes, and builds the kind of tactical instinct that quietly carries over into singles. It's also a great story for the tournament, the kind of pairing that draws eyeballs on its own. But it comes with a cost too. More matches, more time on court, more physical load stacked on top of an already demanding singles run in the middle of a hard summer. That's a balancing act worth watching as the week wears on. So let's be clear about what these 5 withdrawals actually changed. They didn't hand Eala a bye. They didn't guarantee her a quarterfinal, and they definitely didn't clear a path to a title. What they did is make the draw less predictable for everyone, including her. Whether that works in her favor depends entirely on how the bracket lands and who she's staring across the net at in round 1. And there's a bigger picture here too. Washington marks the start of the North American hard court swing, the stretch of tournaments that leads straight into the US Open. Every match this week isn't just about ranking points. It's about answering a question the whole tennis world is now asking. Was Wimbledon a signature moment, or the start of something that's actually sustainable? We'll find out soon enough. The draw is set, the storylines are loaded, and Alex Eala is about to find out exactly what it means to walk into a tournament as the player everyone is watching instead of the one nobody saw coming. If you want the real breakdowns on every twist in this Washington Open and every big storyline heading into the US Open swing, that's what we do here at Tennis Court Cult. Hit subscribe, drop your prediction for Eala's first round matchup in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.